Hello everyone, this is the channel Chaster USA. My name is Kirill and here we talk about watches. Today we have a genuine retro piece. Orient has revived the famous Super King Diver, a model from the late 70s, and the revival happened to be an exact match. The design is unchanged with three beautiful dial shades, and they're so good that I decided to show you all three today. And these models, of course, you can purchase in my store chasterclub.com. Links will be in the description. And here they are, three beauties. Indeed, the retro design immediately catches the eye. Both the dial and even the external structure are executed in such a vintage style because of the references to the original design, the original structure. Here are those very four rivets on the bezel. Satin finished top. By the way, the side is polished boldly. Everything shines, sparkles. On the right, there are two more crowns. The offset crown is responsible for rotating the inner ring. By the way, it's not to say that it rotates very easily. There is a slight resistance. This actually allows it to maintain a relatively stable position under accidental impacts from clothing, for example. But the junction of the bracelet and the case, well, scratches will probably form here. On this side edge, I even specifically left the film for now to preserve the pristine look of the watch. Well, I think it's a small detail, and I would rather draw your attention to the water resistance indicated on the back cover as 5 atmospheres, meaning you can wash your hands at most with the watch, although let's not forget that the model was and is called Super King Diver, although in general there's little diver-like about it. But I think it's because of the construction. After all, this bezel with rivets and two non-screw-down crowns make it quite challenging to achieve 200 meters water resistance under such conditions. The flat mineral glass protrudes about 1 millimeter upwards. Of course, the original model had plastic glass and the inscription crystal has remained. Super King Diver and a beautiful dark dial. Here we see a blue shade, such a deep, rich blue, slightly transitioning because the design here is sunburst. And two black backgrounds under the gold dots, 5 indices on the left, 4 on the right. There are generally many gold elements here. 2 large indices at 6 and 12, hands, frame. And on the dark background, the date of course looks quite striking, significant even. The white disc stands out like a separate spot, but this version is perhaps the most restrained in terms of the calm, even color of the dial. If we take, for example, a model with a beige light brown, I would even say transitioning to champagne color, then here it has a brighter golden dial. The hands fit perfectly into it though. However, readability might be slightly worse. Well, the blue version has roughly the same readability. In fact, it's not about readability or ergonomics here, it's more about design. The hands are still thin, but the beauty of the dial is mesmerizing. But personally, I liked not this dial the most, but rather the ruby variant. Look at this beauty. Actually, I've only seen this color in Orient. We had a model, I think 3 stars, if I'm not mistaken, with a similar dial color. And of course, such a mesmerizing wine-like shade. Cool how it shifts from light to dark tones, but this is probably the brightest model. Although from a distance, the pattern only goes through the center, meaning this red stripe. From afar, it really turns into a stripe. So if we bring the watch close to our eyes, we'll see that red is practically the entire center, but moving away. This red center turns into one stripe, and on the left and right are black sectors. An interesting effect. And inside is already the new F6922 movement. 22 joules, power reserve of more than 40 hours, manual and automatic winding. By the way, why the new one? Because in the original models, of course, was used a mechanism that was old and had, so to speak, long since retired. That model, by the way, was called 469135A in the second half of the 70s. Well, it's worth saying that it has, of course, been revived before, but this 2019 revival really appealed to me. It turned out really original, and Orient is doing just fine with revivals. Let me remind you that we had the World Diver with a world map on the dial. Let me remind you that we had the retro camera. In general, all these vintage, beautiful dials, beautiful cases fit so well into modern design that it's amazing. And the adjustment here is standard. I'll remind you that the crown is non-screw down. The first position is for changing the day of the week and date, and then in the second position we move the hands. All of this is extremely simple, easy, and convenient. No questions here. What's nice is that they didn't forget about the luminous elements. Maybe there's not so much of it here, but overall the readability in the dark remains quite good. Right opposite the golden indices, we have small dots with luminous material. It's also on the thin hour and minute hands, and overall you can tell what time it is. And our most restrained blue dial sits great on the wrist. Here, of course, the dimensions are small, with a case height of just 46 millimeters, width of 41.7 millimeters, and thickness of 12.6 millimeters. By the way, the thickness visually seems greater than it actually is. I think this is due to the comparison with the thin stamped bracelet. The bracelet is steel, like the case, but of course the case looks like a puck compared to this bracelet, but in reality it's not. Everything here is acceptable. By the way, the bracelet here is extremely simple, meaning we don't expect any big surprises here. The clasp is also stamped neat with buttons. It's designed for wrists up to 20 centimeters. The weight, by the way, is 120 grams. I wouldn't say the watch is particularly light for its size. Yes, of course, these options, while having the same external design, I think are suitable for different occasions. This red one is really an option for the soul, as I see it, bright, colorful. The blue one is indeed more restrained, as it seemed to me, meaning it can already be paired with shirts, perhaps not formal ones, but some casual ones, jackets, sweaters. Well, and the red and beige ones are more like weekend options, I guess. Options for summer, possibly on a bare wrist. I think they will look no worse then. And on a covered sleeve. In the end, I'll probably note who might be interested in these watches. After all, this isn't an everyday option, I believe. But this is definitely a case where they will attract glances and become a subject of discussion among people in the room. Here, of course, there's history. Here, this Orient spirit is conveyed to the maximum. And they didn't forget about specifications. I like that both manual and automatic winding are present in the modern Orient mechanism. There are also date displays here. Even though many people don't like this separate spot, but according to modern traditions, if you're getting watches for everyday use, for urban use, I think it's just right. Maybe it lacks a truly diver's level of water resistance or some minor details on the bracelet, but I think that in this budget range, perhaps one shouldn't expect anything more. The price-quality ratio is quite acceptable, but the colors again remain, of course, at your discretion, but I really liked them, especially this ruby one. Indeed, it's beautiful, rare shades that are not often found nowadays in the watch industry in general. Also, the price remains more or less acceptable. Of course, we try to make it affordable for you. Naturally, at this price point, Orient also offers real divers, but not all divers are the same. They will look similar to each other, but these options, this is something different. This is a special highlight of your collection. At the end, I'd like to know your opinion. Which model did you like more? Be sure to write about it in the comments. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. That's all for now. Bye everyone.